Hi!
Hello.
Yes, good
Welcome.
evening kahit gabi na dito, 6 p.m. na dito sa California and it's 9 a.m. in the Philippines. Good morning, Philippines. Good evening, California. And we are Ménage À Trois. I'm Julie. And introduce
And
yourself.
I'm Skye. Hello, welcome to our show.
Pow.
Yes.
And I'm
So,
Paula or Pow. Welcome.
yes, welcome. And thank you so much for being here with us. Today, we're going to talk about basically our life here as an immigrant in the USA connected to the legalization of cannabis. Because may iba-iba kaming experiences. Kumbaga, ako, I came here 2010 and medical cannabis pa lang ang legal noon that time. And you, Sky, kailan ka nagpunta ng America or California?
Well, I came to California to escape the Philippines. That was the story of me arriving here. I was escaping from myself, basically. That was
Social
in,
ba 'to?
yeah,
Social.
it was in 2015. I wanted to leave, and my parents were like, hold on, magpasto muna at mag-New Year.
Yes,
Kasi
yes.
biglaan lang eh. So January, I packed 2 bags. I landed in California. So at around that time, medyo legal na siya. I was, my cousins, they were not really about it, but it was around.
Yes.
And then I think my first encounter was when I went to Washington State. So dumating ako dito, bomb lang ako. 2 bags, wala, walang plano sa buhay.
Pero meron
Yeah.
kang friend na
Yeah,
or family?
I have a lot of family here.
Okay.
So alam ko naman na I can bum in their couch for a few weeks. So I went to Washington State. There, matagal lang, iba na ang culture doon. In
Yes.
the, like, it's just open. It's been recreational, I guess, for a long time now. So, you know, my thought of what cannabis before in the Philippines, I thought it looked something like this. I was like, this is oregano, by the way.
Okay, okay.
So kala ko ganito. So when my friend, like when I asked, may weed ba kayo dito? And he handed me something that looked like this. Sabi ko, ano to?
Parang shake na siya
Sabi
kumbaga.
niya,
Yeah, oo.
tsaka, ayan, that's cannabis. I'm like, really? That's not what it's supposed to look like?
Yeah.
So, ayun.
Kasi
And that was,
compare mo from what you saw and what you know from yung cannabis sa Philippines
yeah, for
talaga.
sure. It was totally different.
Yes.
So I didn't know. I had no idea. I mean, I had very limited knowledge of really cannabis back home in the Philippines. And here and there you hear about it, but what do I know, right?
Yes.
So that was one of my. And then I was invited to a party, and
Yes.
it was my first
Here
time
in
to be
America na.
in Washington State when I
Okay.
was up there.
Mm.
So I was invited to a party, and there was, recreational was already,
Yes.
in parties, So it was my first time to really see how it's done here in America. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, so
I
literally they just get this little nug here, they grind it up and they put it
grind.
in a bowl and you hit it, and I'm like, oh,
Ikaw,
what a
Paula.
wonderful experience,
Meron ka
diba?
bang experience din, something like that with Skye, na maiko-compare mo ba yung nakita mo or what you know about the cannabis in the Philippines tapos cannabis here in America?
Kasi I moved here 2005. And
Mm,
then
okay.
high school lang ako noon. So hindi ako familiar. Wala akong alam sa cannabis sa Philippines and wala rin akong kakilala.
Yes, yes, okay.
Pero syempre, nung dumating, pero alam ko kung ano ang marijuana at that
Yes.
early age or like
Mhm.
cannabis at that early age. And I knew na ano siya, drug siya, so equals illegal. Tapos
Mm,
hindi naman ako masyado nag-explore about it. Tapos nung nag-move ako dito 2005, may mga tao na nakikita ko na gumagamit, which is medyo culture, alam mo yun, na culture shock ako na, oh, sila
oo.
okay dito. Alam mo yun, tapos parang, okay, so ganun sila dito. Parang, so dun ako na-curious, tapos may mga napag-aralan din ako during that time. Tapos nung naging active na ako sa theater scene, marami akong naging kaibigan.
Oh, nice.
And
Yeah.
marami akong naging kaibigan. Tapos doon talaga ako na, wow, alam mo yun, kasi parang una sabi ko, okay, gumagamit sila nito, okay ba ako dito? Tapos alam mo yun, parang
Yeah.
nagha-hangout
Tas
kami. Sabi ko,
siguro
masarap
kasi
silang
yung ano, like what you also knew about it, hindi ka pa talaga masyado open about it kasi hindi ka naman talaga exposed sa mga cannabis
yeah.
users before. Yes,
Mhm.
oo.
Totoo yun. Tapos nung parang overtime, sabi ko, uy, ang sarap nilang kasama,
Mm.
chill lang sila. Tapos, alam mo yun, very normal. Actually, mas matino pa nga silang kausap.
Ayan.
Ah,
Oo,
ayun, doon ako naging sobrang
mas
open-minded
open na.
na, tapos ayun, marami akong natututan.
Yeah, siguro yung
Mm.
open-mindedness din kasi comes with the experience. Kasi moving here in America din, ay iba't iba yung mga characters
Mhm.
ng mga tao, 'di ba? So,
Mm.
in a way, yeah, kung ikukumpara mo na parang medyo boxed in ka minsan sa Philippines eh. Kasi doon ka dito, doon din naman talaga ako lumaki. So, iba
Mm.
rin yung pag na-open ka sa iba't ibang kultura, iba't ibang lahi, iba't ibang way of life.
Mhm.
Pero one thing that I could say also about cannabis naman is, nung dati nasa Philippines ako, ang nakikita ko lang diyan yung mga high times na mga, yung kumbaga yung itsura ng cannabis dito sa Amerika, yung mga nasa posters ng high times ganyan, ang
Mhm.
Oo.
hihinang, ang iba, iba siya sa itsura sa Philippines. Sa Philippines mukhang ano lang talaga, 'di ba? Pero kasi sa grow na rin pala yun, marami na rin para kasing nangyari dito sa Amerika that led to, alam mo ba Paula na dumating ka dito 2005, 'di ba?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Na-legal na siya technically, nagkaroon na ng, um, Proposition 215 which is inopen niya yung medical cannabis,
Hmm,
1996 pa lang pala dito sa
oo.
Amerika. So, from then on, marami ng talagang nakapag-eksperimento when it comes to farming, cannabis, indoor-wise and
Mhm.
outdoor-wise. Nakuha na nila yung paano gawing high quality, 'di ba?
Hmm,
Naaral na nila from that. So, nakita ko nga yung difference na, oo nga, iba nga ang cannabis, ang itsura ng talagang high quality cannabis na dito sa
For sure.
California, right? And,
oh.
from then on ba, sa experiences niyo dito, nakita niyo talaga yung medical benefits ng cannabis? Can you share, ikaw Skye, may mga ano ka ba, friends na they were just using it for medicinal purposes, ganyan daw? Mm.
Yeah, well, I can only speak for myself. That's the
Okay,
thing.
okay, oh, yeah.
I've no when I it's like I was taking it. So my first experience was in a recreational setting, and it felt nice. Parang naginhawaan ka ng konti, parang medyo mabagal ka lang. Pero iisipin mo, bakit? Why is it illegal in other countries? Parang it's just a plant. It's just something green. It's
Yes,
from the soil. It was grown, and why is everybody sort of against this
yeah,
natural
Hmm,
product? So, dun talaga ako nagka-interest na I mean, what's the big fuss?
yes,
And I went back to the Philippines actually in 2016. I did my duty as a citizen. I voted in May. And then when I found out who won, and then I said, okay, I think it's time for me to go back.
okay, yeah,
So, parang with the current administration nga, parang right now, parang they have their own fights here. So I'd rather be here in California, wherein, it's
yes,
celebrated. It's legal medically and recreationally.
yes,
Um, and that's why I'm here. But I've enjoyed it so far.
yes,
hmm,
For one of the reasons why I use it, it's just other than recreationally, like it
mhm.
helps you just relaxes you. Parang
yes,
that's like
that's true.
different strains, different uses, different kinds of buds and whatever. It has different reactions to the body. So there's like the body high. It depends on how you use it, and
Yes,
there's also that increases your concentration. So you use it in your daily life, parang ganon.
Hmm,
So when I have a headache, instead of grabbing like medicine like in
paracetamol,
a bottle or
Tylenol, yes,
ganon, sabi ko, why can't I just we know that weed helps my headache. So why don't I not
Mm-mm.
just, instead of taking a synthetic pill or whatever, you know, medicinal na lang or something natural. And as I grow old, I appreciate, nature more.
Totoo
Obviously,
naman. Wala
obviously, I
pang
love
mga
nature.
adverse side effects yan sa mga
Exactly.
organs natin.
Oh.
Yes. Oo.
Mhm.
So, I think we have to take care of our bodies and decreasing, having more natural ways to cure ailments. I'm all
Yes.
for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ikaw, Paula.
Ako naman, may mga kakilala ko na they actively use cannabis medically. Dahil yung isang kakilala ko si tita, ano yun eh, nurse yun eh. Grabe
Mm.
yung arthritis niya.
Mhm.
So
Nice.
nagtitake siya ng CBD.
Yes, correct.
Yun, nagtitake siya ng CBD. Tapos meron naman akong friend na ano naman siya, active siya dati sa military. So may PTSD naman siya. So, yun, nag-use din siya ng ng cannabis para lang, alam mo yun, para
PTSD
sa
basta.
kasi may PTSD siya eh.
Mhm.
Tapos meron naman na, alam mo yun, recreationally, parang hangout lang, ganon. Pero ang hindi ko lang talaga maintindihan is, I would echo what Skye said earlier, is that okay naman siya, eh. Marami naman talaga siyang medical, benefits.
Benefits,
But what
yes.
I don't really understand is bakit may limitations? Bakit siya rini-restrict kung may mga tao naman na, alam mo yun, na okay naman.
Yes. Well, kung i-address talaga natin kung bakit siya na-restrict or nire-restrict, it goes back kasi, if I can just share, nung 1961, merong single convention on narcotic drugs. And gumawa sila ng international treaty prohibiting yung mga iniisip nga nilang narcotic drugs. Sadly, sinama nila yung cannabis doon. So that's in 1961. The Commissions of Narcotics and World Health Organization,
Organization.
kasi sila yung may authority to add or remove anything doon sa mga controlled substances. And unfortunately, sinama nila doon sa four schedules of controlled substances yung cannabis. And during that time, here in America, si Richard Nixon, who became the president in 1970, nilagay niya sa
Mm.
Scheduled 1 drug ang marijuana. Si Richard
So
Nixon. Yes,
very strict na.
but going to the history kasi, it all boils down also to nagkaroon kasi talaga ng racist movement
Mhm.
from ayaw
Mm.
ng mga puti yung mga itim, tapos yung mga itim sila yung magaling sa mga jazz music and yung
Mm.
tawag nga, 'di ba, mga blues ganyan. And madalas talaga sa kanila, they use marijuana as part of their lifestyle.
Mhm.
It just so happens that na ayaw nila yung nagkakahalubilo yung mga puti na babae sa mga itim na lalaki. Ayaw nila ng gano'ng interracial. Nung mga panahon na yun, 1960s, sobrang eminent pa ng racism nun eh. So, isa para ma-address nila yung race wars, you can say,
Mhm.
pinuhibit nila yung marijuana, nilagay nila sa Schedule 1 drug para talagang yung mata-target, mai-incriminate for a crime. Very 'di ba,
Very specific
yeah, very
kind.
Very
specific,
specific,
People who
race.
strict.
use it
Yes.
frequently.
Mhm.
So,
Lagi nahuhulihan, you
oo.
know.
And from 1970 yun, 'di ba, si Richard Nixon put it for Schedule 1 drug. By 1972, just 2 years, merong pinopose yung, sa batas, yung it's called Proposition 19, which aims to remove the criminalization of marijuana. Unfortunately, when the Americans voted, they rejected that Proposition 19. So, talagang nanalo yung gusto nilang mangyari nung panahon na yon, is to have that parang specific talaga yung target nila na race na
Mhm.
mahuli ng mga police, in short. So, it took a while kasi from 1970, di ba, 1961, nangyari yung medical legalization dito sa Amerika. It's called the Compassionate Use Act of 1996 under Proposition 215. So, 'di ba, it took how many years 'yon from 1970s to 1996, 'di ba? Pinaglaban ng Amerika ang medical cannabis. And
Yeah.
alam niyo ba surprisingly na nag-start yung isang malaking movement for Proposition 215 sa San Francisco. So, 'di ba, Bay Area
Ah,
tayo, represent. So yeah, Proposition 215, nagsimula siya because nagkaroon ng marijuana activist or marijuana movement. And there's this guy, Dennis Peron, kasi nauso din dun yung, not nauso, pero more on lalaganap yung sakit ng AIDS around that time.
oo, may oo nga.
Yes, 'di ba sa San Francisco din yun, meron nga
Yeah,
movie about it, yung Milk
yung
ata yung
pandemic nila
content.
nun. Mhm,
Yes. So yun, nung nag-rise yung sakit na AIDS, dun din kumalat yung medical marijuana movement because they were using it. We were using marijuana to treat symptoms of AIDS. And I don't know if familiar din kayo, there's this lady na kilala siya for baking brownies during that era. And her name is, pinangalanan nga rin siyang ano, Brownie Mary, gano'n. But her name is Mary Jane Rothburn. So kasama niya rin yun si Dennis Peron, nag-activist talaga sila for marijuana movement. That it is medical, it has a medical benefit for the patients, di ba?
mm,
So, dun lang yun, 1996, nagkaroon sila ng movement. And unfortunately lang din, even if naging legal nga siya medically, or inalaw nila medically, federally kasi bawal pa rin siya sa Amerika. That time sobrang higpit nila na kahit na sinasabi sa batas na legal na yung cannabis for medical use, meron pa ring stigma or ano pa rin yung even the ano medical prescription providers na nagpo-provide sila ng yung prescription
prescription.
for marijuana, medical marijuana, during those times, they were still ano, subject to criminal prosecution. Kasi nga sinasabi na federally hindi pa rin pwede, nanghuhuli pa rin sila in a
Mhm.
way, depende on how the police or how the federal law would approach it. Kaya pa rin nilang gawa ng paraan na parang napapangitan pa rin na pinapapangitan,
Mapasama,
yeah, oh yun, napapasama pa rin yung medical marijuana because of that, you can say.
oo.
Yeah, and it took a while. Nag-battle yan so 1996 yan. Around early 2000s, kahit dito sa Oakland, actually Oakland yung dito rin yan sa Bay Area, 'di ba? Nagkaroon din ng United States versus Oakland cannabis buyers, ganyan. Kasi talagang pinupush talaga nila yung wag alisin niyo na yung stigma sa medical cannabis, 'di ba? Kasi meron
Mhm,
pa rin. Hanggang sa even in 2010 si Governor, that time Arnold Schwarzenegger, yes, kilala natin yun bilang artista din. So nag-sign din siya ng legislation reducing naman possession of marijuana from a criminal misdemeanor to a civil infraction. Kumbaga nire-reduce na nila yung fines. Kasi it
Mhm.
doesn't yung parang dun na nakikita na gamot nga siya, bakit kailangan may stigma pa rin siya. So there were politicians trying to help naman open the medical marijuana and also considering recreational marijuana na rin pala. Like,
mm,
in July 2015, yung Governor Gavin Newsom and along with American Civil Liberty Union and Stanford University actually, nag-release din sila ng recommendations for the regulation of recreational marijuana use. So nagkakaroon na ng movement yan kasi nagsisilabasan na yung mga totoong pasyente na kahit
hmm,
tinitestify nila na medicine nga talaga 'to, mas nagno-normalize na siya along the way. Pero it was such a big fight 'no, like ang tagal din ng laban hanggang
mhm,
sa 2016 dun in-approve yung Adult Use of Marijuana Act for recreational use of cannabis.
Mhm.
Legalize nila 2016.
So,
But it
tamang-tama yung dating ko.
Oo, yes, oo. And then ano pa 'yan, dahan-dahan pa 'yan kasi from then on 'di ba may mga permits na kailangan,
Mhm.
approval, ganito, ganyan. So by January 2018 talaga nagbukas yung recreational cannabis sales, 'yan. And
hmm,
nakakatuwa kasi alam naman natin na ano 'di ba, yung mga isa sa mga unang nag-legal na states yung mga Washington, tama ako 'di ba, Skye?
Mhm.
Oo,
Yeah, I think so.
Oregon,
I think
yes.
first or the second one, yeah.
Yeah, parang mga first ano 'yan, eh, mga unang nag-legal na states. Tas, two other states followed with the recreational marijuana movement
Mhm.
in 2014. Yan, yung Oregon, lumalaban na sila. Alaska, 2014 pa lang nilalaban na
Alaska
nila.
kasama?
Yeah,
Wow.
yes. Yeah. So
Nice.
yeah,
Keep them warm.
pinaglalaban talaga nila. Kasi alam mo, marami kasing cancer patients din, or not really cancer patients, hindi lang cancer patients actually eh. Like, maraming patients na lumabas talaga na parang, tanggalin niyo na yung stigma. Let's normalize this. Kasi like, for example, um, I don't know kung narinig niyo na si Charlotte Fiji. Ano siya, bata
Mhm.
pa lang siya eh, nagkaroon na siya talaga ng ano, ng sakit, which is yung epileptic episode siya. Bata pa lang, from infancy actually. And nag-turn yung parents niya to medical marijuana. Tapos nag-coordinate sila with this farmer in Colorado, and they were those brothers in Colorado were breeding a special strain kasi na more on hemp naman to kay Charlotte Fiji.
Oo.
Binuksan ni Charlotte Fiji yung ah, pag-normalize ng CBD as medicine. Kasi yun yung ginagamit niya for her epilepsy. And
Mhm.
dati daw, before using CBD, halos every 30 minutes in one day, ang ganun yung seizure niya. So, it's very, ano ba, parang nawawalan talaga siya ng quality of life. But
Mhm.
when she started using CBD as a part of her treatment, like once na lang in 7 days, hanggang sa largely na parang onting-onti na hindi niya na talaga nakakailangan, hindi niya na kailangan eventually, like bihira na lang. It just so
Hmm.
happens na actually Charlotte Fiji died I think last year because nagka-pneumonia siya, and then there's COVID and all that. So, um, yeah, but yung sakit niya na epilepsy, ultimately na-address talaga siya ng CBD for her quality of life. Natulungan talaga siya na tumigil yung mga seizures niya. But yun, 2016 yun hanggang sa ngayon, 'di ba, na-e-enjoy natin yung recreational, mas nagbubukas na talaga siya. Slowly, iba't ibang states na yung nagbubukas, right?
Yeah.
And the good news about this too, kasi nagsimula naman 'to kasi nilagay nila 'to sa ano, eh, sa listahan sa International Treaty ng Drug Prohibition na dangerous drug, 'di ba? But good news also nung December lang last year, 2020, ano na siya, inalis na siya. The United Nations approves the World Health Organization yung the recommendation to reschedule cannabis na hindi na siya dangerous. Hindi na siya kasama dun sa Scheduled 1 na most dangerous drugs and all that. So,
Hmm.
namumulat na talaga yung mga tao. And yun, from then
I
on.
think I
Mhm.
think because I right now cannabis is like going like looking at where we are right now with cannabis, it's growing fast.
Yes.
And sometimes we can't also catch up.
Oo, oo.
Like, I mean, people are like, okay, to be responsible as so recreational cannabis is if you are 21 and above, you
Mm.
can go into a
Yes.
dispensary. It's called a dispensary. It's where you buy your weed and other things. If you're 21, you can purchase it. That's all you need to be 21 and above.
Yes. Mm.
And this is a time where you're discovering yourself. 21, you're able to drink now. You're able to smoke now. You're able to smoke weed now.
Legally,
So
legally.
legally. So
Yes.
and of course, with age comes with responsibility. And
Mhm.
they say, okay, don't smoke. There's like don't smoke under the um, influence of marijuana or to cannabis. But when you get pulled over, like how would you test that? Like, oh, I think you have, I think you're high. Okay, we'll take you down to the police station. But how can you prove that right there in the road, right? It's like for alcohol, it's easy,
Breathalyzer.
breathalyzer, or they do the stand test, whatever. But these kind of things also we have to look into the future of, and being responsible. We have to start educating people, on
Yes.
how to use this properly and safely. I think
Yes.
and
Mhm.
going back and going back also to um, why cannabis was illegalized is like we all know that there's always people behind the scenes,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
There's always someone benefits from something,
It just so
and
happens na ano, the one who formulates the prohibitions and all that also benefits from the prohibition.
Of course, and a lot of people are behind it. You know, there's pharmaceuticals, there's construction companies, because they found out that the use for hemp and marijuana, that the use of it in everyday lives, you
Yeah.
know, the hemp is a very good material, natural material that can
Yeah.
make numerous items, clothes, now houses,
Yeah.
shoes, and they're
The
all
hemp seed
natural.
nga. Yes,
Yeah, and then
exactly.
syempre, the construction people behind, I'm like, I'm against that.
Yeah.
They're gonna take our job.
Lugi,
I mean,
nilulugi.
so
Yeah.
kaya nga, so you always have to look who's behind it really, and who's funding these laws, and
Yes.
we all know that the pharmaceutical companies are also behind this, because we know that the medicinal benefits.
Mm.
If people just started using natural means, why would you
And
prefer a pill that can with so many side
lalo
effects?
na kung if you can grow it, tapos, 'di ba? I mean, it's just there, and then
Exactly.
you don't really money is not an issue
That's
anymore,
right.
basically,
That's
right?
right.
Oo.
And
So
Eh,
yeah,
in
ikaw,
mm,
California,
Paula.
in California,
mm,
you are legally allowed 6 pots.
Yes.
So to grow,
Yeah.
indoors. So you have your sustainable. It's a sustainable medication.
Yes.
All you
Exactly.
need are seeds, and that's it. And you have your medicine every day, instead of reaching for a bottle and then having so much adverse effects. And then you need
mm.
another pill for that side effect and another pill for that side effect. So the revolving door just goes around and around and around. And when there's another exit to it. That's why
Yeah.
when people say, like, oh, cannabis is a gateway drug to something, I'm like,
To
gateway
mass
to what?
No.
incarceration and to healthier options.
I mean,
And
they've really targeted cannabis to look so bad in society, and then you know what I mean.
Yeah, pero
yeah.
yeah, ikaw Paula, what can you say about yung from the legalization and all that? Yeah.
Well, kasi hindi mo rin naman din alam kung ano yung mga intentions ng mga tao behind the scenes,
For
right?
Yes.
sure.
So,
Mhm.
but definitely there's a huge bottleneck in terms of like processes ng legalization nga ng cannabis. Pero um may pros and cons sa tingin nila. Pero
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, this is just my opinion.
Mm.
Ultimately, I think there is a huge lack of research in terms of like
Mm-hmm.
cannabis. Kasi kung marami tayong research, if we have a wealth of research to back
Tama.
up like the benefits of cannabis, then researchers can actually put this into paper and then they could actually present this to to symposiums and stuff. Pero ano yun eh, kasi magandang start yun eh. That way, mai-inform din into practice, the clinical practice.
Yes.
Kasi yung mga doctors kasi hindi naman nila alam parang oh, sige, magpe-prescribe ako ha. Alam mo yun, parang okay tayo. So, may mga ibang doctors siguro na
Mm-hmm.
ano, okay ba to? Tingin ko naman yung pasyente ko, okay naman siya eh. Sige, pa-prescribe ko. Pero wala yung ano eh, wala dun yung 1 billion% of confidence of
Kulang pa
practitioners.
sa
So,
clinical studies.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yung
Kasi
talagang
hindi,
cannabis
mm,
lang. Yeah, oo.
yeah,
Yeah.
kasi hindi mo alam eh kung ano yung
Yeah.
anong lagay ng pasyente mo, 'di ba? So paano yung dosage noon? Ano yung paano
That's
mo
right.
aanuhin yun? So you have to put everything into an equation for you to actually solve the problem. So research is super important so that you
Yes,
could inform
vital
clinical
yun.
practice
I,
so
I'm
that
I'm
these
really glad. I'm glad you brought up research,
Yes,
yeah,
because in order to research cannabis, it's not that easy.
it's not.
It's not. The thing is, every seed must come
iba-iba. Yes,
from the federal government. You can't just use, okay, let's just get this seed, okay, patubuin natin, okay, test natin. Hindi. So,
even yung
bawat
ano,
seed, yeah, bawat
subject
seed may
matter.
tracking number yan. Tas kailangan in a federal area mo siya ipapag-grow, tapos ganun lang. It's just, the process of researching cannabis is just so difficult. Unlike, okay,
Mm.
crack, okay, just make some crack, okay, let's test it, you know? You know what I mean? It's
Yes,
just
yes.
it's the accessibility of research as well. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if we you're, and plus that's correct, dosage. That's also,
Pero
especially with edibles, right?
that's
There's
true,
so
yeah.
many edibles popping out na 20 milligrams, 30 milligrams, 40. So, it's kakain pa.
Pero alam niyo guys,
Diba?
like, agree ako diyan na talagang yung clinical research mas kailangan mas marami pa
Mhm.
talaga. And kahit yung mga volunteers for that research, let's say I volunteer, dapat talaga ano lang ako, like alam mo yung dapat pot lang talaga. Kasi yung iba pupunta, like for example, there's this studies about pregnant women who are using cannabis, and then they
Mhm.
were studying those pregnant women. Unfortunately, hindi lang naman cannabis yung ginagamit ng mga ibang
Yeah.
subjects nila, ibang pregnant women doon.
Yeah.
Iba-iba rin. May cigarette
Mm.
doon, may iba-ibang
Mhm.
gets na halo-halo na hindi talaga nila ma-conclude yung talagang
Makontrol. Hindi nila
yeah,
makontrol yung
oo.
setting.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And eto
Which
rin,
I am waiting for research. I am waiting for research on it.
yeah.
Personally speaking.
Oy,
Diba? Kasi
guys,
you have to
oo,
know
totoo.
eh.
And eto
I
Ay,
lang din
mean,
kasi doctors also kasi kumikita kasi talaga sila sa pag-prescribe ng mga, let's say, ayan,
for
katulad sabi
sure. For
ni
sure.
420, ayan. Doctors are on opioids and Adderall all day. You know, ako din pa. Yeah. Hi pala sa inyo. Yeah. Kuya
That's a
Edmund,
funny one.
hello. Yes, yes. Yan.
marami
Hi
na
muna
pala.
tayo
Uy,
sa kanila muna. Yes,
oo.
oo. Break time. Hi muna.
Break.
Hi, Jane. Yes. Hi sa
Hello.
inyo.
Ay,
And
may
then,
birthday.
oo,
Si
sige.
Ramser de Guzman. Happy birthday sa
Happy
iyo.
birthday. Hanapin natin siya. If you guys can see it, you can click it too. Yan.
Mm.
Oh, ito pala, pa-notice po birthday ko. Yan. Hello.
An.
Oh, Miss Skye. Miss Skye, meron kang ano, ah, pretty mo daw today, oh, 'di ba?
Nak.
Makatuloy
Yan.
nga sa chat na to.
Yan.
Aba?
And then,
Aba?
good morning, yes. And then si Paul. Hi, Paul. Lagi yan nanonood din
Yan ko
kahit sa
si
Filipino Harvest
Ernest.
Guy. Si Ernest. Ang si Ernest.
Oh, hey, Ernest.
Oh, si
Kamusta?
Val,
Si
classmate.
Val.
Hi.
Hanapin ko si Ernest pag nakita. Yan. Greetings. Hi, Val. Hello. Si EJ. Pau. Si EJ rin.
Yes.
Yes. Friends from the Philippines.
Thanks
And
for thanks for tuning in, guys.
yes,
Kung
thank you
nasa
so
Pilipinas
much.
lang kayo, good morning, salamat.
420, taga-Canada din 'to. Ano rin 'yan, marijuana supporter 'yan, heavy marijuana supporter. I have THC in my blood all the time, so it's hard for law enforcement to test me because of my high medical tolerance.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, some people actually drive better when they, had a few dabs in them. They're loosened up. They don't have road rage in them. Chillax lang, cruising
Yes.
around. So
Yun
that's
nga,
your thing.
si Jane, pa-shoutout to Ate Paula, talagang
Jane.
WNO.
Oo.
Yes.
Kamusta?
Kuya
Hello.
Ernest. Hello, Kuya. Si Kuya Ernest has a new page, right, Kuya? So we'll share that also because I know you made a new page. And we also have Lisa Hernan with us. Si Lisa is from LA, also advocating for medical cannabis for the Philippines. Yan. Yes. And hi from Jonas.
Hello
Jonas.
there.
Hi.
Jonas is ano pala yan, also part of Alab Assembly, and he will also have his own show. It's not like a weekly podcast thing, but he will have his own show also, and we're
Mhm.
very excited to show his work. Malapit na yun, ine-edit na po yan. And then si
Mhm.
Albert Coronado. Yes, hi
Good morning.
Albert.
Good
All right.
morning.
Yes, all
How's
right.
your Sundays going?
Yeah, oo nga pala. Good morning sa inyo sa Philippines. 9 a.m.
Mm,
dyan, right? And it's like 9:35 a.m. Dito kasi 6:35
55.
p.m. Kahit na PM na yung araw na di ba talagang akala mo 2 p.m. pa lang, ganyan.
Nasa
Yes.
Pilipinas ka ba, Julie?
Oo, kagising magsisimba na nga ako. Yes, and ito si Hi, Ai. And earlier kasi I was mentioning Charlotte, Fiji. That's true also, Quattro Vente. It's about Charlotte's Web. She really opened up yung um,
Hmm,
medical cannabis also, the movement for it, for CBD. Charlotte's Web, high CBD strain, correct? Yes. Sa Canada, guys, another information that Quattro Vente shared to us. Federally legal,
20.
2017 pa lang.
Oh, federal.
17.
So that's
Oh.
the whole country.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
federally, yeah.
Okay,
So
okay
yeah,
pala, kaya pala nandiyan ka.
Sa US kasi parang in the US every state has different rules. So just
Oo
if
nga
you're
eh.
gonna visit the US, just make sure that if you go to a state, know if they're know the rules first, kasi nga
Yeah,
every state's different.
every county, city, yeah, may
Yeah.
sarili silang regulation on or
Oo.
permits na kailangan mong kunin and all
Yeah.
that.
So,
Mm.
Yes.
if you just plan a visit or stop by, so
Yes.
just know the rules of the land.
Tapos guys, gusto ko rin palang itanong sa inyo. Because
Mm.
when it comes to mental health, ang nakikita ko talaga is parang mas open dito sa Amerika yung pag-usapan yung mental health or even going to a therapist
Yeah.
for mental health check. Kasi parang sa Philippines ang laki pa rin ng stigma ng mental health. And I think cannabis has a lot to do, or it's aiding a lot of patients na they're suffering from mental health also, and it helps bring them back to their center somehow, especially pag sobrang stress nila or ang gulo ng utak nila. Nagiging daily life na nila na yung cannabis is part of, parang supplement na sa kanila yan kasi it helps them so much when it comes to when it comes to dealing with stress, actually pain management and all that. And alam naman natin na pag tumatanda na tayo, mas marami na tayong iniisip, mas marami na tayong responsibilities that we have to face. And cannabis can actually slow everything down, and you can focus on what you need to prioritize at that moment. 'Di ba?
Yeah.
So, yun yung nabibigay niya rin sa mental health ng mga tao. But, like, ako personally, yung sa Philippines kasi, ang tingin ko sa mental health sa Philippines, pag sinabi na means, may ano pa rin sila stigma even with depression, na pag sinabi, depression, baka nag-iinarte lang yan, you know? Unlike here na parang, oh, you have depression, let's talk about it. You know what I mean? Mas na-address ng ganon. And yung iba nagre-resort sila to cannabis use to help with relaxation, because you need to slow down, also take a pause. It's
Mhm.
very important for us. So what can you say about that when it comes to mental health, relating it to cannabis, or even mental health in general?
Um, yung sa mental health in general, totoo yun. May stigma pa rin sa Pilipinas. I mean, actually, it really depends
Kahit
on your
dito
culture,
din sa
right?
yes, oh, tama.
It really depends on your culture, on how open your culture is to talk about mental health. Pero yun nga, yung sa experience naman sa Pilipinas, wala naman akong kakilala noon nung bata pa ako doon na nagsabi, uy, may problema ako. Wala eh. More on dito, very casual sila dito na actually, mas na-appreciate ko pa nga yun eh, na parang regular coworker, they would come up to me, tapos may sasabihin sila sa akin about their mental health. Sabi ko, mas okay yun sa akin. Mas nabibigla pa nga ako kapag yung chinichismis pa sa akin na, uy, alam mo ba si ganito? Mas ayoko yun.
Oo naman, yeah, oo.
Parang, hala, ba't natin siya pinag-uusapan? Wala dito yung tao. Pero
Yes.
yun sa mental health, mas open sila dito. Actually, one of my experiences is, nung college ako, sobrang stress ako nun kasi working full-time, tapos full-time din ako as a student. I think I was taking like 14 to 16 units. Tapos ang trabaho ko from 4 to 11 p.m. kasi manager ako nun sa retail store.
Mm.
Talagang na-stress talaga ako nun. So, nag-seek ako ng help sa
Counselor, ganyan.
oo.
Yes.
Hindi talaga siya guidance counselor, but talaga siya, a
Parang,
professional psychologist
yes.
sa campus. Mm.
Oo.
So yun na nag-usap kami ganyan. So alam mo yun, very parang pumasok ka lang for your regular checkup and wala namang sasabihin yung ibang tao.
Yes.
Tapos yung mga ibang tao naman na kakilala ko, mga kaibigan ko na they actually use it to clear their minds. They use it to clear their minds and to, you know, to calm down their emotions. So ano naman siya, beneficial naman siya sa mga ano ko, sa mga
Because I
kaibigan
think
ko.
it
Kasi
really
hindi
has
ako
ano,
gumagamit eh, so hindi ko alam yung feeling.
yeah,
Pero
no problem. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
like
oo
for
nga pala.
example, for me when I go to a doctor's office,
Mm.
like when they get my blood pressure and then they give me a set of questions, they ask me my medications, blah blah blah, and then at the end of the initial interview, they ask me, so how's your mood? Do you feel depressed? Are there any activities you enjoyed before that you don't enjoy now? They just give. Did you ever think of hurting yourself? They ask these questions, and I
Yeah.
really wish that we'd ask these questions more to even our
Yes.
friends,
Yes.
because we
mhm.
got to check on our friends, and in ourselves. Of course, we have to always check on ourselves.
That's true.
And
Yes.
another story about, I just want to share this,
Mm.
the use of cannabis. So I work in a hospital and I see a lot of people from different ages and
Yeah.
different walks of life.
Mhm.
And so I met this 40-year-old who came in for a stroke. It's not every day you see a 40-year-old with a stroke. So I sit down with him and I just ask routine questions. So he's 40 years old, he's a truck driver. We all know that truck drivers have very bad hours of work and
Yeah,
Mhm.
sometimes the
poor
day ang
diets, you
haba.
know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I asked him, so his shift is the graveyard shift. So I asked him, so what do you do when you get home? So I smoke. I love to smoke cannabis. Like, okay, and then I go to this extent of, so in order to be better, you gotta improve your exercise. You gotta wake up. You gotta do something with the day that you got and be healthier. But he's like, I just sleep all day. It's just hard for me to wake up. And I'm like, all right, so you smoke cannabis. And I went to the extent of, so what do you smoke? He goes, I smoke indica all day long. And I'm like,
Yeah.
huh.
Mm.
And we know indica gets you sleepy. Indica's the strain that calms you
Yeah.
down. Indica's the one that helps you
Wheelchair,
sleep.
wheelchair weed, kumbaga. I just want
Yeah.
to
So it just
enforce
it
that
you
dito
know,
talaga.
and then I'm like, maybe you have to change your strain. Maybe
Mm.
try a sativa, which helps with the wakefulness, which helps with the alertness, which helps with the concentration, and maybe you can do more for yourself, be
Yes.
healthier. And it's
Mm-mm.
like out of the whole conversation he'll probably have in the hospital about taking medications and getting better, and have blah blah blah. I mean, the best advice maybe I could have given him was just that, like changing your strain, to get out of bed and do stuff. So it's also depends on the providers of care. And
Yes.
that's why we also have to reach out to our providers saying, hey, when you talk to people, when you talk to your patients, ask them how they are, like emotionally, spiritually, mentally. We have to look at a person as a whole, hindi lang yung
Yeah.
physicality ng tao.
Yeah. And ano rin, you have to connect with them in
Yeah.
a talagang authentic human-to-human connection. Hindi yung role playing. Hindi tipong,
Oo.
doktor mo lang ako, ito gamot mo. Or something na, kunyari, even with, kasi, kumbaga, nangyayari kasi, madalas yung mga approach ng mga tao sa isa't isa, nagiging role play na lang eh. Gets mo? Like, kunyari, may papasok na customer sa isang store. Good morning, how are you? Do you really mean what
Mm-hmm.
you're asking? You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm good. Di ba parang ganun? Role play lang kasi siya.
Yeah.
Even sometimes with parents, nagiging role play na lang yung parental
Parang
role.
automatic
Gets
na lang.
mo? O pero nawawala yung talagang human connection,
Mm-hmm.
authentic connection na alisin mo yung identity na ito siya, parang connect talaga like as if
Yeah.
yung you can see na you have something in common and you're connecting. Ganun talaga, yung ganun. I think
Yeah.
nawawala nga yun minsan kasi we're so caught up with the busy schedules that we have with our lives and all that. Kaya minsan kahit pumasok ka sa store, 'di ba? Hi, how are you? I'm good. You pero you know what I mean? Like the role play nagiging role.
Yeah, parang hindi natutunan ko sa Amerika.
Mm-mm.
when people ask, "Hey, how are you?" They don't really are not waiting to
Yeah.
say, "Kumusta ka na?" I want to tell you 5 minutes about my time there. Just like a hi, hello, how are you, and then they leave. Hindi
Yes.
pala ibig sabihin nun na you're really interested in my life.
But you are totally
Chika.
correct, Sky,
Parang
that
ano lang, standard
yeah,
operation hello lang.
for me kasi dapat authentic yung connection eh. That's why a
Yeah,
lot of people result to addiction. It's because the lack of connection din talaga from
yeah.
other people. And yeah, so dun ba rin bumabalik sa mental health. Kasi for example, ako, I went through traumatic situations in my life. I never imagined na magre-reach out ako sa therapist or sa counselor.
Mm-hmm.
But I did it here in America because I don't have to share my story right now or anything like that. But yung mga traumatic situations ko, I really reach out to a counselor because very impartial yung view niya. First of all, wala siyang kilala sa, 'di ba? Hindi niya kilala kung sino man yung nanakit sa akin, hindi niya rin naman talaga ako kilala personally. Pero they're there to give you ano talaga good advice, put you back to yung emosyon mo kasi minsan 'di ba
Mm.
na-overwhelm tayo, and they help you address those emotions that you don't want to deal with. Aside pa dun is actually yung therapist ko, I'm very open to my therapist that, I use cannabis kasi yung ibang therapist, they can prescribe you antidepressants, 'di ba? Like Prozac or any other antidepressants that are out there. But ako personally, I tell my therapist that, I just want to stick with cannabis, and there's a lot of ano kasi uses for cannabis. Let's say may oil, may joint, may bong, iba-ibang gamit, iba-iba rin
Mm-hmm.
yung tama niya minsan, yung iba mas malakas, iba 'di ba, Sky, alam mo yun?
Yes.
Jonas is si Jonas naman, also Sky's partner, ang dami ni Jonas na parang equipments or, like pang ano, cannabis talaga siya, like
Mm-hmm.
he's really a cannabis guy din. So, um depende talaga sa ginagamit mong, type of use ng cannabis. May
Mm.
iba't iba rin siyang tama. And for me, just for me, my personal ano, okay na sa'kin yun than get prescribed with, a chemical pill or you know what
Yeah,
I mean. I'd
Mm.
rather stick with cannabis to help me with my mental health.
yeah,
And I think the veterans, like, I believe you mentioned that kanina, Paula, right? The
Mm.
veterans. Yes, the veterans are also using cannabis na. 10 pills. Because if you know yung episode ng We Dikit, there is this show in Hulu, it's a Vice program, We Dikit. They did show their veterans na comparing this veteran na puro chemicals, methadone, yun yung mga ano ata yung pinaprescribe sa
Oo.
kanya. But alam mo, talagang parang ano pa rin siya, iba yung epekto sa kanya. Aside sa kinumpare dun sa isang veteran sa may PTSD, tas they're just addressing it with cannabis. Parang very light na mas hopeful yung buhay nung nagka-cannabis kaysa dun
Ah.
sa stuck siya with those heavy chemical pills.
yeah.
Iba yung epekto talaga.
Mm.
Yeah, but I would if like I said, if whoever's watching here, if you're taking antidepressive or
Yes.
anti-anxiety pills, and if it's working, yun
Yes.
yung tanong eh. If
Oo.
it's working for you, then good for you.
Yes. Good for
I
you.
I
Yes.
I I am go. I mean, because I
Anything that
bet
can
you,
be helpful
because
talaga,
I
di
bet
ba?
you, people who are taking antidepressive and anti-anxiety, they're still working with a lot more problems.
Yes.
They
Yes.
lack sleep, and you need another pill to get them to
Correct.
sleep. They need
Yeah.
another pill for this. So it's like,
Parang nagiging zombie
honestly
na minsan
speaking, in the
sila.
long
Oh
run,
my
in the
God.
long run of things, it may not be sustainable.
That's
Yeah, it
true.
will hurt
Because
your
the more you
organs.
use
Yes,
the
your
drug,
organs.
the more you
Yeah.
use the drug, the more side effects you'd have. I mean, and they're very
Mm.
open with that. Big pharma is very open with all the side effects of all the drugs that they advertise. There is, they even have a drug to boost up an antidepressive drug. If your
Yes.
antidepressive drug is not working, they have a
May iba na
booster for it.
naman. Yeah,
So I'm
oo.
like, where does it stop? Where does it end?
And
Mm.
grabe
And
yung side effects, 'di ba? When you hear like even sa
yeah,
commercials,
you,
like, oh, the side effects, ganyan, ganyan.
you have,
Parang
yeah,
Yeah.
ulcers probably. You have
suicidal thoughts, may ganun pa, 'di
suicidal
ba?
thought.
Uy,
I'm like,
akala
isn't
ko
this
ba ano,
supposed to be
oo.
the one to cure this? So,
Yes.
like I said,
Mm.
if you are taking antidepressive, if you are taking
And it's
whatever
working for
prescription
you.
medications
Yeah.
for your mental health, And if it's working for you, good for you.
Yes,
But if
that's
it's
right.
not, then usap tayo.
Yeah,
Usap
there are other alternatives that
yeah, like
ano,
let's
healthier
look
pa.
at your day, because I tell you, taking sometimes if you take the antidepressive drug is not a one and finish all. I mean, like I said, if you don't change your lifestyle, nothing's gonna change, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
even with that additive of depressive antidepressant, pero yung buhay mo ganun pa din, parang hindi mo makuha yung totoong effects talaga ng medication. Because
Yeah.
Mhm.
what the people who give those medications lack to educate na, hey, why don't you look at your sleep pattern? Are you sleeping right? Like, are you getting enough exercise? What food
Yes,
are you
or
eating?
yes, exactly yung diet mo.
Diba?
Ano ba yung pinapasok mo rin sa katawan mo? Puro junk food ba yan?
Exactly.
Because, tama ka. Ang wellness kasi overall yan eh. Kung hanggang sa exercise mo, anong kinakain mo, it will really
Exactly.
affect you. Yes.
And it's so sad because the 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 all in end is whatever, like when you have hypertension, punta ka sa doctor. Okay, sabi ng doctor, mag-exercise ka, magkumain ka ng tama, matulog ka ng tama. Oh, i-educate ka naman pag may cardiac problem ka.
Yeah.
Pero pag may mental health problem ka, it's not very standard operation. They'll tell
Yeah.
you,
Depende
sleep,
sa approach.
eat better, exercise, because the brain and the stomach are connected.
Yes. Yes.
Because the
Mhm.
brain is the one that receives all the nutrition of the
Yung
stomach.
Yeah.
nutrients, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. So if it's good for the stomach, that means it's good for the brain. So, just my 2 cents here. If you're struggling with some sort of anxiety or depression, especially now, check yourself. If
Mhm.
how are you sleeping at least 8 hours a day? Because
Yeah.
start from sleep, because it's important that you take a break. Your brain needs rest.
Saka I think it's very important also to connect with people who
Yeah, for
actually
sure.
who actually will help you become a better person. Kasi
Mhm.
meron tayong mga hindi naman sa pag-ano, ang dami nating kilala sa mundo na 'to. Marami tayong mga naging kaibigan sa mundo na 'to. But we cannot really say na everyone's a good influence,
Yeah.
to be frank. So when you're in that low situation in your life, your low point, ikaw then you have to consciously seek people who will
It will
direct
help you.
yes to
Yeah,
the
who have good intentions.
yes
Hindi,
exactly.
tsaka ano din eh, parang, um, what you call, you have to also admit that I think something's wrong with me. I think that's the first thing.
Accountability. Yes, oo.
Just parang sandali, parang if you don't admit that something's wrong, then you just live the way you are, diba?
Yeah.
So I think that's the
And you
first
just
step.
blame it to someone else
Yeah,
instead of,
deflect it on
hello,
somebody else.
nawalan ka lahat ng kaibigan kasi ikaw pala yung may problema. 'Di ba something like
Exactly.
that, right?
Exactly.
Oo. Oo. So, tama 'yon, self-reflect and basically our point really for this episode 1 is we just wanted to share with everyone kung ano yung naging buhay namin dito as PhilAm kasi namulat talaga kami sa mga ibang paraan, ibang kultura,
Mhm.
and with medical cannabis being legal here, we really saw the medicinal benefits of it. At alam mo panlahatan kasi talaga yung benefits niya, eh. Hindi lang sa pasyente, eh, kahit sa ekonomiya nakita rin namin how the
Yeah.
economy here boomed. Ang daming naging trabaho. And in all honesty, wala naman akong nakitang crime na let's say talagang sabog na sabog sa cannabis, pumatay, bayolente, wala. Okay.
Wala.
So,
Yeah, wala naman.
if ever may mga balita na kumakalat na gano'n, sana yung mga journalists, they really
Mhm.
check their facts. Because wala naman talaga siyang violente na gano'n na, na cannabis lang ginamit, pumatay, wala,
Yeah.
wala pang wala. So,
And
Diba,
then also, oh, go ahead, Sky.
yeah.
it just breaks my heart when I see people burning it sa
Oh, yeah.
Pilipinas. Parang ang sakit lang sa oh my gosh, like you're wasting medicine, you know.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, ako naman, ako
But
lang yung one last,
Yeah.
yung 2 cents ko lang to, to end our first episode.
Right. Yeah.
Is just that kung kasi hindi ako gumagamit ng cannabis. Pero yung ano lang ba, yung openness lang ba na
mhm.
maging curious lang tayo, magkaroon lang tayo ng human to human interaction. Like try to understand people And wag tayong maging close-minded. Kasi lahat naman tayo may pinagdadaanan. Lahat tayo busy. Lahat tayo may kanyang-kanyang priorities. Pero ang akin lang is that kung hindi mo trip, wag kang basag trip.
Oo, hindi ka naman na-harm, eh, wala namang
'Di
ginagawang
ba?
masama sa'yo.
Wala namang ginagawa sa'yo, wala namang pumipilit sa'yo, 'di ba? So,
Oo,
kapag hindi convenient sa'yo, don't trash talk about something that you actually don't know. And
yeah,
make sure if you know something, make sure na to back it up with research kasi nga ano
tama.
'yan eh, importante 'yun. Especially now, importante 'yun. So,
Yeah.
'yun lang.
Share ko lang pala 'to 'cause Kuya Ednes said, let me share it here. He said, "Marijuana helps many aspects of life. Shout out to all the Filipino growers out there putting their knowledge and skills into this plant. Share the knowledge po."
Yeah.
Yes, thank you
Yes.
Kuya Ednes. Kuya Ednes is actually ano ko 'yan, ang galing na farmer niya. Ang galing niya na grower actually, ang galing niya na grower. So, thank you sa'yo Kuya Ednes
Yeah.
for your quality grow, and also yes, thank you sa lahat ng mga farmers out there na talagang they're pouring their knowledge and sharing the plant to other people that, it's very helpful to a lot of people. And natutuwa rin ako na i-announce nga sa inyo na si Paula is not using cannabis. She's a non-user, but she's a supporter of medical cannabis because she really sees the benefits of it. So, yun rin ang panawagan ko sa mga tao na they're not really users, but open your minds because this cause is greater than ours. Kumbaga yun din ang gusto namin i-impart na yung mga talagang kailangan nila tong medicine na 'to, tapos ikaw feeling mo it's not gonna work for you, then it's not gonna work for you. But if it works for others, then respect that, 'di ba?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
totoo.
So yeah, thank you so much. Do you guys have any more questions? Because our episodes is actually just gonna run for an hour each week naman. So
Mhm.
every Saturday, California time, 6 p.m. We're gonna go live, Ménage À Trois, and that will be every Sunday na. Tuloy-tuloy na sa Pilipinas, every Sunday, 9 a.m. live po kami. Thank you so much for staying tuned.
Thank you.
And
Thank
you
you.
have any last words ba, Paula and Skye?
Um, just tune in every Saturday, California time, 6 p.m. and Manila time, 9 a.m. Every week, meron kaming, may papag-usapan kami, iba't ibang
Yeah,
topics.
iba-ibang topic.
So, we really hope na mag-look forward kayo sa mga, namin, upcoming topics namin.
Yes.
Yun.
And you, Skye?
Yeah, just stay safe, everyone. We'll see you again next week, right
Yes.
here, same
All
time.
right. Yes. Thank you. And again, we'll be back next week. And we are Menage à
Menage.
Menage à
Trois.
Trois.
Thank you.
See ya
Bye.
next week.
Salamat!